Oh, yeah. Welcome to Frequency Friday. This is the Sonic Culture episode of Frequency Friday. Get your freak on. Hell yeah. Cheers, everybody. Happy Friday to you all. Grow Mo Flower, what up? Off Grid Chirps, what up? Boom, boom. Hi, Amber. Twiz, what up? Do you even grow, bro? Do you? They were like, I should block you. Shut up. Dude's still salty. He's salty because he talks shit. But anyway, on this episode, we are going to check out Sonic Bloom by Dr. Dan Carlson. And Sonic Bloom's the foliar spray that I use. And it's how I do what I do without water, you know. This year I'm putting some water down. But normally we don't use water, we foliar feed. And that's our water all day, all night. Let's go with this video first. Wait a second. I just emailed you my best 15 day fire. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So without further delay, let's get into a couple introduction videos. Up to 700% increase in nutrient uptake, you guys. Let's check this out.
There you are, sir.
Bro, cheers, cheers.
So, Wayne, you heard about this sound and people laughed.
These are old videos now.
Yeah,
And you said, I'm going to try it.
Yes. In fact, a couple of my friends kind of looked at me and started walking away. You know, there's something wrong with that guy. But it works. It definitely works. I couldn't believe these cucumbers or pickles here. They look so puny when they first came up. And I think I just sprayed them about 4 times. Now, music, with it. And away they go.
And your wife said last night that she wasn't going to can anymore, and she canned 108 quarts of cukes.
108 quarts up to now.
Yeah.
And they're still going. They're still going good.
Right.
We picked 10 quarts this morning.
Okay.
Every other day we get about 10, 12 quarts on that. So that's amazing. We had a pretty good crop last year, but nowhere's near like this. And you should see the peppers coming now. Peppers are really doing good. I thought they weren't going to do anything, but they're coming along real good.
In corn, you did a lot of double, triple-eared corn. We got some corn up there that we can...
We've got 3 plants coming out of there. And this one has 2. That one has 1. No, this one actually has 3. This one hasn't come all the way out yet. So 4 stalks off of 1 seed. That's pretty good.
Why don't you just rip one of these off and
open it up?
Yeah,
show them what good sweet corn looks like.
4 stalks off of 1 seed.
Yours all fill in real nice.
Oh gosh, look at that.
Huge kernels.
Look at that.
Would you say it's sweet?
Oh yeah.
Would you say it gets on other people sitting around the table when you're eating it?
It definitely does. And this is, you would think that this stuff here should be dented already, but it's not. And it's just right in the prime right now. But we've got it in the jars already, or in the bags rather, frozen. So.
And you feel you got 2 off most of the ears, and
sometimes we got
3, right?
2, possibly 3.
There's 2 there. There's 2 here.
Well, you see all those that I've harvested already back there. Mm-hmm. There's still 2 on that stalk.
Yeah.
And we're going to leave them for another week or so, and they'll still be good. They're just coming a little slower. Yeah. Here's another one that's got 2. And again, most all have 3 coming out of the bottom. And I planted this corn myself. I know we only used 1 kernel.
Yeah, right.
As I was telling my wife, she says, you can't put in 2 or 3 kernels. That's too much. Yeah.
Excellent. But isn't it fun to have this stuff taste like it used to, right? Isn't that, that's our thing. It's one thing to be the gardener, but it's like with this, you're the best gardener. It's kind of like ping golf clubs if you're a golfer.
You're right.
What's a few bucks to be the best, or enjoy the food more that you grow. It's good for you, but if
you're going through all the effort of doing it and you don't receive anything, next year I guess maybe we won't have a garden, and I just can't believe. And the raspberries, I gave those a couple of shots, and my gosh, we had raspberries. So wouldn't believe it. And that was eight plants 2 years ago, 8 stalks.
Okay.
And it's just phenomenal. So next year I'm going to get after the apple trees. We want apples like this next year.
Well, we do that a lot. Yeah, and in planting fruit trees that have fruit the first year, if you got to wait 4 or 5 years, you just don't want to do it. But most of these fruit trees now will get fruit on the first year, and it's a reward. It's a bond in between you and the plant.
Yeah.
And so it makes it much easier to plant the kind of plums and cherries and stuff.
The thing that I like about it most of all is it's organic. It's not, but you're not putting a chemical in the ground that later on that you wonder, well, did I get cancer from those potatoes, or did I get cancer from this or that? That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
I way back years, when they didn't have fertilizer yet, there wasn't as much cancer as there is now. So it's got to be coming.
Well,
plus all the drugs.
Yeah, it's the pesticide and the herbicides. Yeah. Have you noticed a lot of bug problems out here? Or?
No. I had a good amount of potato bugs this year, which I never had before. Mm-hmm. But I dusted them a few times, picked off a few.
Did you notice they were moving a little slower? When we raise the sugars in plants, insects honestly tend to get drunk and disorientated. We joke and say they're so busy fighting among themselves.
I didn't see them move at all.
They move real slow.
Yeah.
And we'll have the Colorado potato beetle on their potatoes, but they don't eat very much of the plants because the sugars are so much.
I got a friend here that's only lives probably a mile away, the crow flies. He had no potatoes at all. The bugs just ate them up completely. And I said, well, I had bugs, but I said, they didn't eat my potatoes. No, he said there was just a stem left. And this guy, is retired. He has nothing else to do but to go and spray them. And he said he just took them by the cups full and flushed them down the sewer. Yeah. I said, no, I had bugs, but I didn't have them that bad.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, it sounds like you had some fun.
Oh, yeah, I did.
And now what do you say to the guys who tease you by playing the sound? When you can offer them
just follow me.
Yeah, come to the garden and look at the biggest produce you've ever seen.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, my cousin that was here, he kind of looked at me a little strange when I told him I was playing music here to these vegetables. And then when I told him the ones at Dave, I said, by Dave's house, I said, you can really see how they lean toward the music. Oh boy!
Yeah, that was just too much. Yeah, but you fed him some of the cukes or the corn or the tomatoes,
and
he said,
wife just got a whole armful this morning. She got the big tomato.
Oh, okay. Well, that was like 4 pounds, 5 pounds.
I'd say it's probably 3.5, 4 pounds.
Okay.
It looked like 3, 4 of them grown together. That was that big.
Yeah.
So.
These tomatoes, Steve, were planted, set in the bag, plants, February 6th, 1991. And incidentally, I'd like to mention this time that the solution that we're using is the Sonic Bloom and the foliar spray, developed by Dr. Dan Carlson of Blaine, Minnesota. We have approximately 1,000 plants in this house, and one thing I like to point out that where the sound is the closest to the plant, the loudest, the plant is the tallest. We turn the music on early in the morning when it's warm, about 65 degrees, and when we foliar feed the plant with Sonic Bloom, we spray it thoroughly underneath the leaves with a very fine mist with the music playing. And obviously, you can see what the results are. We get beautiful, wonderful fruit. And up to date, from this house here, for approximately 1,000 plants, we began to harvest the 23rd of April. We have taken off nearly 6,000 pounds of fruit from the planting of the 6th of February of 1991.
That's fucking dope, ain't it?
I re-enlisted for Germany, and they took me as perfect because I wrote that.
We're not gonna watch that one yet. Let's see what this guy's got going.
Hi, folks. I'm going to demonstrate today our foliar spraying, which involves adding sound to the plants. Now, most people don't consider that plants would recognize sounds, but they actually do. And the first time I was introduced to this concept was back when I was, I think, a junior in high school. My science teacher, biology teacher, she was talking about an experiment she had done in college where her and her friend that were taking biology, they decided they were going to do an experiment using houseplants. And so what they did was they took one group of plants and put it in one of them's dorm room, and then took another group of plants and put it in that person's dorm room. And both dorms were facing the south, and so the sunlight was coming in. So they both got the same amount of sun. And what they wanted to do was they used the same soil, the same fertilizer for both sets of plants. But the difference was in one group, they were real nice to the plants. They would say, "Oh, you're such a beautiful plant. Your flowers are so beautiful. I just love you. You're so nice. You're so pretty." And then the other group of flowers, they would say, "Oh, you're never going to turn into anything. You're just a loser, and you're never going to amount to nothing. Your flowers are so ugly." And they would talk like this to these plants to see if it had an effect on their growth. And believe it or not, she was saying that the ones who were talked nice to grew bigger and had more flowers. The ones they talked ugly to, they actually stunted their growth and they didn't have as many flowers. And so, you know, this was one of the experiments she did in college, and it was the first time I'd heard about this. But, you know, God has designed into plants and animals instincts that we don't quite understand. But, you know, a lot of experiments have been done using plants.
Spectrum Mobile's new deal is so good it's a work of art.
Love the minimalism.
Switch to Unlimited Plus for just $20.
So I don't know when that dude's gonna.
Hi, folks.
But anyway, the whole point here is your plants respond to sound, especially positive sound. Now, the birds chirping is between 0 and 30 hertz, right? So this is where sonic bloom captures that frequency for sure. Right, simulation sound, sonic bloom, sound emulations using some shit. There's all kinds of sonic bloom videos now. Music for plants, stimulate plant growth with birds chirping. Boom. All right, let's check out Dr. Dan Carlson though.
I re-enlisted for Germany, and they took me as perfect because I wrote that.
So this is the choppy ass video, but
Early on, so.
Desmond, what up?
You know that it's there. Feel free to gesture all you want. Most of the time we can edit around it, but just in case it was, you know, a good part of the story, we might want to use it, and then say, "Oh my, you touched it." The incident in Korea in the 1960s, there was an incident in Korea that really got you thinking put you on a road to where you are today. So, what happened in Korea?
Well, I was on the DMZ. Our job there was every other day we were in a foxhole. And one day when I was in the village, I witnessed a woman hold her child underneath the wheels of an armored truck. When that truck backed up, she held the child there.
Got some sunshine, fuck yeah.
And our eyes met, and we both had to cry. She had decided to cripple one of her child and help them beg. It's very difficult for me to explain, but about 40% of the farmers in that area of Korea starved to death that year because of the droughts. It's the same thing that's happening in North Korea. So basically, when she saw me, she thought that maybe somebody saw her do this, where she was hoping to see the staircase and, turn the child into a beggar. And when I saw the emotion that she had to do what she did, I just turned around and walked away. And as I sat in my foxhole every other day on the DMZ, I decided that I wanted to dedicate my life to solving the problems of world hunger. And I got to tell you, I have a genius IQ, but I was in the lower 10% of my high school class. Kind of, F's the first 6 weeks and A's the last week, and I never applied myself. And I thought the service was a great grandfather's play. But after this, it really made me want to apply my intellect, made me want to do something for the betterment of man. And I went out and I went to general college because my grades were poor and started working my way up into the agricultural parts of the university. And at that point, I found a plant growth stimulant, organic in nature. It made 3 out of 100 plants grow 10 times normal. So I figured, they're doing something different than the rest. If I can make them all do that, then I can make all plants grow 10 times normal, and I would satisfy this goal. But it wasn't easy. I spent 4 or 5 hours a day studying plant physiology, looking for a mechanism I could trigger to make plants do this. This is a glass being 3% full instead of 97% empty. But with this full glass, I thought I could do what I intended to do. And lo and behold, after 4 or 5 years of studying this plant physiology, I came across a frequency of sound. And it said it helped plants breathe better. If they breathe better, they could possibly absorb better as well. So then it took me 2 days to call up, look in the yellow pages, get an audio engineer. I got this guy, I told him what I was trying to do, and he didn't laugh. And we set out to make this particular frequency and apply this first product. Well, this product was called gibberellic acid, a plant growth stimulant. And I went down to Target and I bought a 88-cent purple passion plant. And within 5 to 6 months, it was about 600 feet long. And it was supposed to be 18 inches. It was supposed to live for 18 months. Well, the plant lived for over 20 years and grew to the eventual length of 1,300 feet. But my problems were really only beginning at this point. We called the people at the Guinness World Book of Records, and they came out with rolling tape measures, and they measured this thing in just a matter of hours. It was in 2 to 3 rooms in my home at that time. I say 2 to 3 rooms because if it got caught in a slamming door, it would be back to the next room. And my wife was wonderful. We literally took teacup books that you hang up teacups, and we would spray the plant, and it would grow about 2 inches a day on every end. And so 6 days later, it would be 12 inches long, and then we just put up another teacup book in the ceiling or on the wall or wherever it went. And then we started drilling holes in the wall and pushing the plant into the other room so it wouldn't get slammed in the door. But ultimately, it grew to be 1,300 feet long. And I went to the professor saying, I have a plant that's at least 10 times normal, 20 times normal, 30 times normal. He said, oh, Dan, there's no agricultural value to a purple passion plant. And so with my eagerness to please, I said, well, what should we do next? And they said, well, why don't you do something we eat, vegetables? So we went back to the sound guy and then got sound units that we put outside on 12-volt battery type stuff. And we started growing 600, 700 tomatoes on tomato plants, 50 or 60 peppers on pepper plants. And so then I tried to entice the professors to come out and see that. And they said, well, Dan, there's small backyard garden stuff. But why don't you call an ag extension agent and come out? They're part of the university. So we started calling around saying, "Oh, I've got 868 tomatoes in this tomato plant. Will you come out and count them?" I got, "Oh, what else you got?" "Well, I got 50 to 60 peppers on pepper plants." I said, "Well, we could count those because 3 to 5 is the state average." So then I did manage to get a few letters from ag extension agents saying there was some tremendous production going on, but they weren't sure what it was. So then I took these back to the professors, and they said, "Well, Dan, this is all just backyard garden stuff. Dan, it's not really important. Why don't you do row crops?" So now we're going to overpower the noise of the tractor. And my Sancho Panza sound guy, they helped me. We make stuff to go on tractors and end up with some 60 to 70% increases in things like edible yellow beans number 2. And about that time, I graduated from the university, and probably I was handed my degree, and they did make it count. But either I was too far advanced for the scientific community, or I was a kook. And I've been trying to prove them right on both counts ever since. So it's been kind of wonderful. I then did a PM magazine, and we started moving product, getting a lot more people involved, and then we patented in 35 countries around the world. And I now call it Sonic Bloom. And Sonic Bloom is sound aid in the absorption of an organic foliar nutrient. There's also a flip side, Sonic Doom. Sonic Doom is sound aiding in the absorption of contact defoliant herbicide. And I've learned over the years that if I explain this, I can at least appeal to the rational part of the brain. Sonic Doom allows us to utilize any of the 268 kinds of herbicide. Now, I'm not advocating the use of herbicide. I'm simply saying if you play this sound, you can use 50 to 80% less and kill weeds much more effectively. So if we can literally cut back to 15% of the normal amount of herbicide, it would take about 7 years with my system to equal one application of herbicide. So I'm pretty excited about this. There's a lot of people who don't want any herbicide to be used. In a perfect world, we would not. But when I lay my head down at the pillow at night, I think, God, if we could at least cut back herbicide by 85%, I could sleep better. Okay, I mean, I feel wonderful on this, and we've also patented this in a number of countries.
Seymour.
But how do you say? How do you go to the herbicide company and say, "Hey, I can cut your sales by 50 to 85%. So we invented it, didn't market it, we're in fear of it for a good decade. Then slowly the light goes on. And I said, let me go to the big users, like Northern States. Let's go there. They have 700 miles of high tension lines, and they use semi-loads of herbicide, and they care about the environment. So this year we went out and we killed with 50%. Then we asked them to go a little farther. I actually did with a couple of people who are helping support me. But Bergania had a steak dinner with the DNR people that we get a couple million trees with the Indians. We want you to go a little farther with Dan and the Indians people. I said, heck, we already tried it. We already killed stuff with 50% less. And Bud Grant said, no, I'd like you to do 65% less, 75% less, 85% less. I said, okay. And we did. We killed weeds equal to whatever. So how could we possibly kill weeds with only 15% of the normal amount of herbicide unless the sound aided absorption? Won't kill it. Right? So now that I've opened up, hopefully, that door or turned that light on, now you can see what we're doing on a much deeper level. When we spray vegetables, we'll see that we get huge increases in minerals. Okay, we get 5 or 6 months shelf life, double or triple the yield. But how do you not break the bounds? How do you ripen fruit that would normally abort? And all of these things now, after years and years, we start to see. One, the leaves become translucent because they've absorbed 400% more nutrients to allow fruit to ripen on the underside of the branch. Why don't we break all the branches if I said 2 to 3 times more fruit? Because zinc gives pliability And we've proven there's 1,750% more zinc.
Interesting.
Face.
And your whole goal, your original goal, was to make an impact on world hunger.
Exactly.
Where are you in reaching that goal?
I'm busting a couple buttons. I'm feeling real good. The Sonic Bloom has attracted a lot of exciting people over the years, just because we're pretty small company, just kind of rolling along. But every once in a while, people who lecture a lot, people stand up in the audience, and for one reason or another, they'll say, Sonic Bloom is the best product I ever tried. I got 1,000 tomatoes in my tomato plant, or I got 10-pound cantaloupe, or I got 50 peppers on my pepper plant. And one of the people that caught a lot of this was Eddie Albert. Eddie Albert, Mr. Green Acres, absolutely fabulous guy, just a prince of a guy, a Minnesota native, went to Roosevelt High School. He heard about us, and he called me up one day and he said, Dan, I hear the Sonic Bloom is real good stuff, but I've heard that about a lot of stuff. I would like you to call Ian Allison.
Sorry.
And you catch me?
No, yeah. Okay. Your original goal was to end world hunger, or at least have a major impact on world hunger. Where are you?
Right. But if I'm going to tell you what my real goal is, I made food. A cliff dweller. And they came up with some seed that was carbon dated 900 years old. And it wouldn't germinate. We use Sonic Bloom on it. And now there's hundreds of acres of this seed. So if we get to send the Sonic Bloom the donated seed, I believe that I can make them germinate as good as this year's seed. So it's an interesting thing that we found that really can go out there. And my goal is to change the mental acuity of the children in the third world. That's the true goal. And we're seeing, absolutely great, grand, and glorious things. But I go back to just a couple plants as a demonstration. If I can put 800 tomatoes on a tomato plant and 50 peppers on your pepper plants and 10-pound cantaloupe on your cantaloupe, your quality of life is going to start to improve. And one of the things that the Seed Corps does is it teaches children how to grow 400-pound pumpkins. Okay? If I can take a kid this big, shorter than my knee, and have him grow a pumpkin up to his hip, that's self-love, self-esteem, and he's learned to nurture something, which is one of the best basic self-love and self-motivating skills that we can give to a child. If everybody he knows tell him he did something great, then he's a gardener. And so this is kind of this whole thing, we see it being able to just spread out. And this may not happen in my lifetime, but it's really okay. Once we prove that we can make the plants grow much better, much more stress resistant, much more drought tolerant, and much more nutritious, someday the light will go on. And we're just trying to get there.
For the person who is strictly an indoor gardener, who has plants around the house, what can you do for them?
It's endless. We have this home and garden kit where you play the sound on a cassette and you spray your plants with our organic nutrients. But Christmas cactus, a lot of people say it blooms every month in the winter, but it does bloom 3 or 4 times in the winter, more than once. Your cactus will flower like crazy. As you know, I grew the largest indoor plant in the world. I took what was supposed to be an 18-inch plant, grew it to be 1,300 feet. But your plants look like spring. We'd like to call spring in a box. You get this kit and you start spraying your stuff, and if it's 250, 350, 450 blooms on African violets that you want, go for it. If you want to see asparagus ferns filled with flowers and berries, if you want to see ivy bloom that everybody says doesn't, do this stuff. And the more you trim your plants, the more robust they get. There's a certain point where everybody gets worried. Not everybody's wife is going to allow them to grow a 1,300-foot plant, or vice versa. But I think that the ability to grow the best plants that you have in your home are really fun.
You probably know more about plants and really think differently about plants than most people. I mean, obviously, if certain sounds, if certain frequencies have an effect on a plant, they're reacting a lot differently than most of us tend to believe that plants react. I mean, are they hearing sounds? Are they sensing these sounds? I mean, it's quite interesting just to even to think about this. How do you feel about plants?
Well, first of all, I'm a plant breeder. That's my degree. Okay, there's not a lot of them. We're supposed to know how to breed 50,000 kind of plants. I mean, do that, but we're supposed to. I always put myself in the position of a plant. Let's talk about something very odd. When I treat tomato plants, I get these 800 tomatoes. They'll grow 2 or 3 inches a day. Well, 30 days at 2 inches is 60 inches. Yeah, but what we've learned is sonic bloom makes auxiliary growth of biomass. Okay? So let's say we have a sucker growing in between the main stem and the side shoot, and it grows 2 inches a day. So let's say it grows for 7 days, it would be 14 inches long. Okay? Now, normally it would be sterile, but if you look at the sonic bloom treated plant, you pull open the leaves, you'll see all kinds of little flower buds. Now, I gave you this kind of crazy explanation. If I cut this and put it in the ground and spray it once a day for 14 days, it will be fully rooted. And then it will be 7 to 9 feet tall in 48 to 55 days, which is half the time. But I said something kind of interesting that shows the way I look at plants. If you were going to have your arm removed, would you want it ripped out of the socket or would you want it surgically removed? So when I say if you take a sharp knife and you cut it off, it's going to be much better than ripping it out of the plant. Anyway, that's just kind of the way to look at it. But probably the real answer you're looking for, I can grab a book and show you something that I think is very exciting. I believe, first of all, I was in a book called, I met Peter Tompkins and Chris Bird, who wrote The Secret Life of Plants, 5 million copies sold, many languages. Their sequel, The Secrets of the Soil, I'm in, and it talks a lot about my feelings about plants. But after all my work was done, we came to some wonderful realizations. One of them, can you ever remember walking barefoot as a child across the grass when it was wet? Can you remember that? Can you remember being up early enough to hear the feeding frenzy of the bird? Can you remember that? Can you ever remember both at the same time? Okay, now you're getting real close. I believe that the feeding frenzies that birds go through early in the morning aids in the absorption of dew. And I believe this has happened since time immemorial. Okay? It's a mechanism in nature, a symbiotic relationship that a lot of people haven't understood. So now we're taking a bird-like sound and aiding in the absorption of an organic nutrient. It took me 20 years to develop. I just didn't make every plant perfect back when I was in high school. We tried many different products to increase the nutrient level. We had to decrease the dosage because the sound aids so greatly in absorption. But at the end of the day, there's a book I have here. It's called The Pedersen's Guide, Field Guide to Bird Identification. In this book are a couple of things you're not going to believe. One is a sonogram. A sonogram is the electronic depiction of sound. There's pictures of the frequency of sound that these songbirds make. They're in the same frequency I'm using. And then it shows the migration patterns of these birds. And if you, this is goose pimple stuff for me. I mean, I don't know if I can get you to get goose pimples, but let's think about this. Let's go back to this question. Let me think like the tree. Let me be a tree for a minute. I'm on the nut farm here. We're surrounded by thousands of trees. Now, if you were a tree, how would you break dormancy? Oh, the professor was saying, it's the heat thermal units that break dormancy. But we've lived in Minnesota for a long time, and we can see it can be 50 degrees, 60 degrees, 75 degrees, oops, 30. Now, if it was 75 for a while, maybe some of these trees are breaking dormancy, but I say, in the grand design, that this bird that comes from Central America, Mexico, the southern hemisphere, or just the southern United States, comes up here in, as a robin watcher. We always look for these first robins up here when the snow is receding, but they'll be real fluffy and they won't be singing much.
But when they start to mate and they start to nest, that frequency goes up a little bit. And now I'm back to this tree. How do I know when to germinate? I say when this bird starts to nest and he starts, that frequency goes up, that excitement of the mating and the nesting, when this frequency goes up, it resonates the DNA in this tree, and the tree says, that's it, time to germinate, time to break dormancy, and then everything comes out. Now we're using some of these mechanisms to germinate seed, we're using them to break dormancy, but we're getting them to absorb hundreds of percent more nutrients. And if I can hit you with the science aspect now that I've given you the philosophy part, there's a couple of things that I can do and would like to do. One is show you pictures of stomata. The stomata is what I was trying to get the plants to absorb through. Now we have, the USDA has done some scanning, electronic microscopy, or taking pictures of in between 3,000 and 8,000 power enhancement of these tall, small little mouse and plants. And with the sonic boom treated, you see many more and much more complex stomata than the untreated. Okay. The other thing we've done, this gets pretty technical, but try to do it. Radioactive isotope uptake study, the most comprehensive absorption test in academia today. And whenever I lecture, I say I'm going to go over this until I don't make anybody nervous. Radioactive isotope uptake study is an honest-to-God piece of, like Fe59, a radioactive tagged iron. They take this little piece of radioactivity and they put it on the leaf of a plant. They call this the terminal leaf. And then 24 hours later, they incinerate the plant. They take a Geiger counter to find out exactly where that radioactive isotope tracer went. Normally, they just stay on the leaf. With the sound in sonic boom, we found 400% more on the stem above, the stem below, and the opposite leaf. So instead of just staying here, this plant is going both ways and sideways. And then we did it with the spray, which we've done some very unique things with. We found a 300% increase in absorption and translocation. But when we used them together, we found a synergistic 716% increase in absorption and translocation. So what I'm saying to you, sir, is I have found a way to make plants absorb 700% more nutrients than they ever had before. Now we're at the heart of this thing where, yes, we're getting much bigger plants, but now we can ask new questions. When we do a leaf analysis, we'll look at all of the nutrient levels in the plant, but I can find out what the leading deficits are, what is the most deficit in this plant, and I can mix it up in a proportion that gives them. And I can turn that sound unit on, and within minutes, I've got the plant to absorb what it needs to absorb. And to me, this is where we ought to be going.
So going back to so going back to the original question, just a quick summary of just how you personally feel. When you look at a plant, how do you feel about that plant?
Well, part of the learning to study plants is learning to love them. The closer you get to them and the more you observe a plant, the more you'll see what kind of insects, fungus, pests, and things that are attacking it. It'll try to show you that. There's a real learning experience in between you and a plant, okay? And the closer you get to that plant, the more that will develop, okay? You'll learn better how to care for it. You'll learn what colors it is may be certain nutrient deficiency. You'll learn where its seeds are or where to propagate. And it's truly love. I really, really believe it.
You talk about the frequencies and how they affect the plant. There have been other theories, that the human voice affects a plant or the music affects a plant. Do you buy into any of that stuff?
Well, without coming back to sonic bloom all the time, let me explain. I come from a family that has no one actively involved in instruments or singing or anything, so that was kind of, we just didn't have those type of talents. We'd wind up birthday cakes so we could sing happy birthday. But when I started to understand the frequencies, I hired a musicologist, and he told me the frequency of every instrument. He told me about vibrato, timbre, all of the things I didn't understand. This is Michael Holtz, who helped me design the music. Now, every note on the piano creates a frequency, every note on the saxophone, and so forth. But there's things to show you what these mathematical frequencies are. So when we started making the music, in the background of our tape is the oscillator, which is the real bread and butter guy. It's really exciting. It continues to be exciting.
So you're saying that, yeah, there may be certain selections of music that indeed can have an effect.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we feel very strongly. But we're pushing that frequency along, and then there's multiple harmonics. And there's also other frequencies that are good for plants, but not so good for people. You know, and there's some concern that some of these different frequencies that can actually cause some bad health will be promoted, not for the betterment of plants, but not necessarily the betterment of man.
You know, we heard about talking to plants. What are your feelings about that?
Oh, I can go much farther than that. You'll hate it. But my relationship with the purple passion plant, again, for this plant to be 1,300 feet long, every end had to go 2 or 3 inches. Then every once in a while, we just wouldn't hang it up on time, and one would be hanging down maybe 2 feet, maybe 2.5 feet. I could point to the plant, move my finger back and forth, and the plant would then move back and forth. And at that point, people would either leave the house or say, "Damn, that's really neat." But they would always leave. So I don't know what communication is funny. You are a godlike creature to a plant, and it's dependent on you for everything. So it will try to share with you. It'll try to establish a relationship.
You feel very close to plants.
I love plants. Yeah, we have some fabulous stories. At some point, when there's an endless amount of time in a sequel, I have a tree here. There's a picture of it up there. That I have a story how the Indians taught the white man how to talk to trees. And if it wouldn't have been for tree huggers, we may not have made it here. And at some point, I'd like to share that. Very.
How long is it?
Oh, I mean, there's no way to do this as a short story.
Do you have like a laundry list of countries that you have had an impact in?
Sure. We can pull this right out of a bunch of stuff. We've also been in
if you
garden magazines all over the world.
So if you were to just list like that, A, B, C, D, what would be the list of countries that you feel you've had an impact in?
Okay, we work with a hunger organization in about 12 different African countries, mostly Northern Africa. I've worked with Bio Research Group in Japan that has 8,000 farmer researchers. Australia and New Zealand, we've worked there for years. We've been on ABC there. We just had a film show in 37 countries in Africa. We have wonderful allies. Maggie Thatcher helped us fight off one of the giant chemical companies to get our product in England. We've been at Sudley Castle where 100,000 people toured the roses. I'd say we've been in 20% of the country.
Didn't you speak to Parliament? Did I read that somewhere?
That's the Diet in Japan. I have an award over there from the Minister of Finance for Japan. Now, they told me they had this wonderful award from the Minister of Finance in Japan, and I expected a huge bunch of money. I guess that was my American heritage. But they gave me a plaque in Japanese, and I was good.
But I'm sure it says very nice things.
It was very exciting.
So if you were to, and you kind of touched on it, if you were to summarize your ultimate goal, and even after you're long gone from this earth, what would you hope all of your contributions will have, how they will have ended up, what you would have ended up doing?
Well, I guess I hope you're okay. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, and for years it wasn't accepted. People didn't understand it. Well, if there's a telephone for plants, I've invented that. But this telephone allows the plant to be more productive, grow in areas that couldn't, to help mankind. And so I guess what we've done is we have found a mechanism that's going to have a huge impact in decades to come. But right now I'm unorthodox. So are the Wright brothers. So is Alexander Graham Bell. So are all of the kind of people who did this. But the reality of what I do is very graphic. If we're going to do soybeans, if there's 250 pods on all of the ones that we've done this sound and spray on, and there's 30 on all of the ones we haven't, okay, what we found is here, I'm not a great marketer and I'm not competing with the conglomerate. But in countries like Indonesia, where starvation is now coming on strong, things are chaotic, they're getting worse, food is getting more important. When we do a 300% increase over there, I can get the president because they need that food. Here, I can do a 300% increase. I'm a kook, I'm a nut. He's that crazy guy. Some of the yield contests that I have won, my farmers have been thrown out of contest. But we're in a country that's paying farmers not to grow. Do we want 1, 2, 300%? So I have this thing that sounds materialistic, but it isn't. There has to be a recharge for a guy like me. Now, the longer I show you things and the longer you listen to me, I'll tell you I can give you a 1, 2, and 300% increase on everything you could name. We could play 20 questions and you could name different crops. But let's say that I'm exaggerating, which isn't true, but let's just say that. Let's say I only can increase these things by a third. Let's talk about all of the fruits, grains, vegetables, wood crops, cottons that we wear. What portion of the world's economy does Sonic Bloom deserve if this is true? So it's fine, but look, I say a couple of things. I've been slapped around like a small dog by God to do this. And I can go back farther than I was a soldier in Korea. I was in the service, got out, jumped in a lake, fractured my 6th or 7th cervical. They cut my hip off, put it in my neck, said I should have been paralyzed. I wasn't. Went back in the service. I re-enlisted for Germany. They sent me to Korea and told me to cut across. You would have had to been there in the 60s to understand that we would have to go across North Korea, China, Russia to get to Europe. But it was really okay. I witnessed starvation and I decided I'm going to try to do something. And the only thing that's important to me is a lot of these successes get documented, and videoing them is one of the most important things that we can do, because ultimately we're going to need food. Ultimately, there's going to be a drought here. There's going to be bad windstorms. There's going to be, where food becomes more and more important. And one of the most commonly asked questions in the next decade is, how is my food grown? Okay, it's one of the top 10. And we have what we believe is the most effective organic system available. And it's going to happen. If you want good organic produce out of your backyard, and if you want 10 10-pound cantaloupes on every plant, or if you want 50 peppers on every plant, or if you want 6, 7, 800 tomatoes on your tomato plant, well, it's one thing to be a gardener. It's another thing to be the best gardener, but it's better yet to be someone who shares the most nutritious food that we know of with his family. So, yeah. But look, if this happens 30 years after I'm gone, it's been a thrill to be this vessel, just to try to go out and do this. And I'm Moses, and I don't know why, but ultimately it's going to come back, because now we're getting into some of the countries where I want to be.
Yeah. You heard it first, folks. So that is Dr. Dan Carlson, everybody. Dr. Danny. And he is the inventor of Sonic Culture, Sonic Bloom. This is his product here. Now, this is a 16 ounce right here. Now, we have available 2 ounce packs that do 25 gallons of water. And then it also comes with these cool CDs over here. There's 3 different kinds, but one of them's in the CD player probably. So if you guys are interested in Sonic Bloom, you wanted to try it, hit me up at thirdeyestrains@gmail.com. I don't have them on my website. It's on my other website. That one's not active right now. So unless I put it on my website, it'll be available. But hit me up at thirdeyestrains@gmail.com. You know, my email. And tell me you're interested in Sonic Bloom. And we can get you set up. I think these CDs are like $15 a piece. And then I think this stuff was 25 or something like that. But hit me up. I'll check the prices and let you know for sure what they are. Can freaks my bitch ass heart. Hell yeah. Yeah, man. Okay, check it out. Sonic Bloom, everybody. This is what I've been using for years. This is what I teach people about the uptake, the nutrient uptake. I lost my lighter. And that's how we get huge vegetables. Now, I haven't used it that many times on our garden because our garden is in the wrong kind of soil. Should have totally dug it all up first and then, then planted. But I got this fogger thing. So now I might start doing something like that. Intro to Dan Carlson, Sonic Bloom. Granny Grumpy's. Save that. Save that. Sonic Bloom. Let's watch this little 2-minute thing. So this same sound right here, I have this video.
You're listening to the sound of plants being serenaded. It's part of a new technique developed in America to help your garden grow. It's called Sonic Bloom, and it's already produced remarkable results for growers and gardeners throughout the United States and in several other countries. The secret of the system is to feed plants through their leaves rather than their roots, and to encourage the leaves to open their pores and thus absorb nutrients more thoroughly by submitting them to the sound of a special type of music. Sonic Bloom is the brainchild of Dan Carlson. After years of research, he proved the concept in the field, working with farmers, growers, and gardeners. Their experience shows beyond doubt that Sonic Bloom brings startling benefits. The maturing period of all plants is greatly reduced. Growth is vigorous, giving greater yields. Fruit and vegetables are better tasting, and when tested scientifically, are found to have greater nutritional value. And after harvesting, they remain fresh for far longer. You can't argue with the giant pumpkins of Michigan, especially the one that weighs twice as much as Frank Bruno, or with a 16.5-pound cabbage that was still being eaten 6 months after harvesting. 500 tomatoes and more were counted on a single plant. 6 cucumbers grew on a stem where 1 would be normal. Beans were harvested 4 times instead of just the once. Clusters of avocados instead of a single fruit on 1 branch. Corn grew to a height of 16.5 feet, and there were multiple ears on each stalk. Yields of blue corn were trebled in 2 years. No waiting 3 or 4 years for orange trees to bear fruit. The first season produced oranges with twice the normal vitamin C content and a shelf life of 5 months. Even in the poor soil of New Mexico, amaranths were persuaded by sonic bloom to grow to maturity 55 days before their time. Rose bushes produced multiple clusters of blooms. Single plants of African violets grew 200 blooms. Wherever sonic bloom was used, it met with astounding success. Little wonder the users were delighted.
You saw it here first, folks. Sonic Bloom, baby. That's the good stuff. Let's check this guy out. Yep, that's it. A little dog. So this is Junior. Dan Carlson Jr. What up, Big Kush? Untilicized. Hell yeah. Yeah, Till is huge. Oh yeah, that's funny. This is so look, I've been teaching this shit for how long? Got all ridiculed and all that shit, right? Watch. This is a preacher.
There's a guy in Iowa got curious, why do the birds start chirping an hour before sunrise? He found out the chirping of the birds is a frequency that helps open up the plant cells, stomata, on the bottom of the leaf, and it lets the plant start breathing in the morning. It helps set the alarm clock or wakes the plant up. He found out that frequency is found in music, classical music, quite a bit. So he started playing classical music to his cornfields. His neighbors thought, un poquito loco a la cabeza, he's a couple fries short of a Happy Meal, but until his corn grew 15 feet tall. And he said, what channel was that you're playing? When he played the music to his squash plants, they produced 5 squash per leaf instead of 1.
Yeah.
He played it to his black walnut tree, and it grew twice as fast as normal. Called Sonic Bloom. It's a combination of vitamins for the plant and special frequencies to open up the stomata.
Boom, that's a preacher. Sonic Bloom for pumpkins. I'm gonna put it on my I'm gonna put it on my pumpkins. The secret to growing giant vegetables. This is the secret to growing giant vegetables. Bam. But yeah, people, check it out if you're interested in Sonic Bloom. Let me know. Old farmers know. Hell yeah. We have some available for purchase. And you can try it out. And that's what I use. That's what I always use. And we would say, how do you grow your plants? That's how I get them. You know how, like, we had remember that cabbage? That cabbage was like this big. It was fucking huge. There was a few of them last year. And we're going to start foliar feeding here now that everything's growing, you know. All right, everybody, one last here for the road. Cheers. Happy Friday. May the force be with you, and grow with frequency always. Check it out. Hit us up at thirdeyestrains@gmail.com if you got any questions or if you're interested in the product. The product. One smoke away. Peace out.